What another powerful day out here. Being on fire with Mama. Yeah. Um, see, I would tell Charlie Ward, I don't have any choice in the matter on whether to love you or not forever and always. And that was what I used to sign on my letters because that's what you feel in your heart and soul. And when you're feeling that much love in your heart and soul, you are naturally gifting away energy because it's the most powerful energy you feel because it frees your spirit. And so that's the game. That's the game of lies. Okay, is through trauma. Okay, is mind-based control. So that's fear-based control as a result of trauma. So you know you got to burn that off, right? So now what happens is this is a test of your fire there, Charlie Ward. And every living spirit that is in real living light knows that truth. That's the highest truth there is. Because you got to know there's the hottest engine that is running creation. So when you experience that through your own heart and soul, then you're with us. You're with all the light, which is among the living, which means your spirit didn't fall. So the more that you experience being in love with yourself, because that's the energy that we experience, that's the spirit that is in the energy that is experiencing that, and that light is the highest intelligence. It's letting you know what's going on. So that it really is Godspeed because the fire is so hot. You can't put that fire out. Okay, so that's what it means when we say the law of one, Charlie. It means to be one with one. You are one with all creation. So you realize I am equal unto all. Okay, so I don't need any energy. I'm the energy giver. And that means, and this is what they don't get and why they're inverted, they don't realize that by surrendering, they actually gain more power. They don't know how to compute that because that's a psycho-mental pathway. I used to, when I was growing up, thinking for as intelligent as these beings are supposed to be, as a child, you already know different because you feel it in your heart and soul. That's your energy. That's your power plant. So you know what you're connected to. You know you're connected to the source from which it all comes because you're experiencing what life is and you're giving it away at a high rate of speed. So when you realize you want to keep giving it away at a greater level of intensity, which means experience more fire, you experience giving more energy away at a higher speed of acceleration. So now you realize you're with the accelerators. Now your energy is really growing. And that allows you in spirit, the spirit that is you, to be able to go anywhere you want to go, wherever the light is. Okay. So that's everywhere. It's like being everywhere at once. So in other words, Godspeed is everywhere the light is. So you realize how vast or infinite that actually is because it's constantly wanting to renew itself because it doesn't like to repeat sequences in any one way. It's like formatting. Now it can become predictable because those patterns, simply you can map that and make a copy of that. So if you want to be an original musician, then you want to be running Godspeed, which is God's level of intelligence. Okay. And the thing about it is that it's simple as a child. Okay. So that's why I've always said, Charlie, just think of me as a little 4-year-old little boy communicating with you. The message would be the same, even though I look older now than I did when I was sitting on a bench having my photograph taken. The energy is communicating to you that truth. So you're experiencing what love is because love is the truth, because love is the absence of fear to tell it. Because the only reason that you would not tell it is if you lived in fear of telling it. So that's called resistance. Okay, so that's what you experience here is the resistance to experience the purity of your own heart, which is the purity of your own love that you have because it's pure. Your heart is pure. When your heart is pure, it means it's purified. It means it's impossible for you to lie because you already realize you're an eternal being. So it's unnecessary. So you realize how that works in the language of DNA and antennas that are communicating with each other, what's true and what's not true. Right? So what that means is that they're questioning your own mind, what you believe, what your energy identity actually. See, so when I'm 4 years of age, I know what I am and I know what I'm not. I am what love is. And it goes on forever because I have a connection that is informing me of that. So when you're always in service, then you realize why you've chosen to be in service. So when you realize that your energy is used in service, the more fire you feel the intensity of that, the more that you're doing that. So now you're running powerful magnet, a very powerful magnet. And so the more powerful magnet, the more power you have. So a monopole is like ground central, center point from which it all flows. And so that becomes a surrender. Okay, and that is the most challenging thing to do. I learned that just in my own process of the way that my timeline went to go duke it out with a demon and in my own mirror, obviously, and then go through that whole story, which I'm not going to tell now, but certainly a lot of what I experienced and put on video over the last several years is indicative of the journey, how you get where you get at any one moment of now time, because that's all there is. There isn't any time, there's just energy. So it's the energy that you're experiencing that determines what you're going to experience. So when you're experiencing eternity, you realize no matter what movies are running around you, you're not held captive by that because you're a free spirit. Okay? So you're running the hottest engine. So you're a buzzsaw. All right, so they know when that energy's there, so you're going to be a targeted individual right off the bat, see? So the truth of what you know in your heart is to know what love is, because now you're with Godspeed. Okay, so there's no denying that. Anybody that's running Godspeed knows they're running Godspeed. See, so they know we want Godspeed, okay, which is like the highest vibration, infinity. So now that vibration doesn't want to be separated from the female side of the cosmos, ever. Okay, this isn't just all blade. You don't want to be all blade. Are you crazy? Being everything. It means you're everything. Everything that is in creation is what you are. So there isn't any difference between what that is and what you are. So you're experiencing everything that is, that's being experienced. Everything. It's all being experienced. So imagine you being able to experience all of that because you have a connection to all of that. So now you're measuring the difference between what you are and what isn't what you are, or what is love and what isn't what love. So if you don't know the difference between the two, now you're the other. So now you're not what love is. So now you realize what happens to us as a result of the other that isn't what we are, because they're not experiencing what love is. So that means they haven't surrendered to the one. So you already know their future. If they don't, it's going to be limited at some point. Because then you're going to begin losing more and more of what you were once aware of, which is what love is, which means you're losing more light because you can detect losing light when you're running purified light. So that's the way it was when I was 4 years old. So you're constantly measuring basically the health of a planet, the health of a galaxy, everything, actually. Because you realize in spirit, you can go wherever you want because you're running purified light. The spirit, my spirit. Not my physical body, the spirit. The spirit and the energy. Like a scout. If you wanted to think of it in military terms, it would be like, I suppose, it's, you know how it is with stock, right? My father was obviously came from good stock because the things I experienced through him show me that this man was, because I wasn't able to break through my father's resistance because of how all the programming was going on and the rest of that. but my father was running a war-based program, a Star Wars-based program, if you will, in which his higher spiritual soul, arcing with his spirit of power. My father was using most of his intelligence side and his creative side, but my dad's energy was up, but he was the most peaceful man I knew, and that's what made it beautiful to be with my father. Okay, so he was the most honorable and peaceful man I ever knew, because I had such a personal relationship with him. Because obviously it was his seed side that came out of my biological mother's side, right? And so they were beautiful people to be with. They're always looking out for things. They know the difference between what's right and what's wrong, based on what love is, and living in peace. So my parents knew that. That's why I chose that family. Okay. To come in where I was going to come in on what level. It is. See, the beauty about being androgynous is realizing there's a big mother in me. So you're using both sides of how that works, doing energy management in a vampiric energy zone. And so that's an eternal gift. Ask Michelle. She's androgynous. She's a powerful light being. I personally don't use the word war because where I come from, I don't experience war. It's unnecessary. It's obsolete. It doesn't exist. and that is a true test of knowing the truth on who you're with. If you're with God, you know that. If you're running Godspeed, you know you're running the highest intelligence that knows. Because the last thing that God does is lie to you. When it's pure light, it's absolutely fearless to say anything to everything else it is. Because it means that everything is open because you're running an open mic. So you're cosmic level spirit because you have an open mic, which means you're listening to the whole universe. What's going on out there? See, so you're like the main fire station. Fire station 1, being with the one. You are one. That's what a monopole is. So you love to run the hottest fire, or if you will, the way I did it as a child. This is just for children, just sharing my experiences. Ask any Andromedan. Experience is the experience. You want the experience. You know, the way that an experience is defined at the opening and closing of a circuit. What do you feel? What does your soul feel? So you're automatically measuring as an antenna the radio waves. What does it feel like? Okay. The experience is informing you of an energy. So you're measuring energy fields, what energy fields feel like, and ones that need more energy, for obvious reasons. If you want to be love as a law, which means every living spirit, which is a sacred temple, which is what love is, which is what light is, that means that all living spirits are sacred because they're all teachers. That's the landscape that's forming everything that is so beautiful to experience heaven within your own heart. Because you're with all those spirits, with all those spirits. So they know that when you're an eternal energy giver, because you have so much love in your heart, you're giving love to everything. All those spirits experience that. So when all those spirits are together in all that light, they're all on fire. So yes, absolutely born of fire. So I know what it's like to have, I'll just share this personally, to have in a physical way, and I've done this with different characters, you know, your imagination, right? But the core meaning of it is really how much fire you got. Okay, so when it's perceived like through cold fission and hot fission, okay, if there's any reluctance or any resistance from one to the other, it won't happen for you. So we're talking zero resistance. That's as pure as it gets, brother. Okay? But what it means, you have to surrender all of yourself, which means surrender all of your energy. And for them, because it's inverted, that means that I don't exist anymore. And that's why they don't do it. And that's because they know the things that they've done. that are a violation of God's agreement, which is do no harm. Okay? Otherwise, you're doing harm to the Creator. Why would you do that to your Creator? Okay? So that means love came first, came before anything else. That's what it feels like. Otherwise, you know that you are not going to last very long. Your soul, your spirit is not going to last very long. Doesn't matter what physical form you come in. We're talking spiritual energy, the spirit. So spirits are teachers. So when they're going around killing teachers, that's the worst crime there is. I don't know of a worse crime from being a student and a teacher, because I love to be a student, because I'm always a student first, because there's always something to learn from something new, from what somebody else created, because they're an artist. They have the ability to do that. But now you can measure how they use their energy to create the things that they do and why they do it if you're not experiencing what love is where they are. So now love becomes the ultimate measuring stick because it's built in. When you've chosen to serve forever, which means surrender all your fire to be with the girl, cold fusion, hot fission, now you're running a monopole, that means you were more intelligent. You had enough intelligence to know that, if anything. And the reason is because the light is intelligent. Living light is the highest intelligence because that's what love is. And that's an engine of communication. So when you're experiencing that communication in your heart and your soul, you know from whence you came. Born out of heaven. I call it born in. Right into my heart and my soul, spirit. So this is your power plant. That's where your soul is. That's where your spirit is. So you do everything to protect that. So you're navigating your way through the entire train between all these smugglers, thugs, and how they all do business with each other. Okay, so when love is translating that environment, you can imagine when you're experiencing what love is, how you translate that in energy, what it feels like with your soul. To experience basically what is an aggressive energy environment. Something's trying to hold you captive. Right? It doesn't want your energy to grow, which means it doesn't want you to accelerate your learning. So they don't want expanded consciousness. Oh, no. They fear accelerators that are really moving at a very high rate of speed because they realize, holy shit, this is going to go faster than we are. It's gone. So these are your controller types. Okay, they want to control the growth of energy, if you will, by virtue of what's conscious, that is energy, and the direction it's wanting to go, and what it's feeling with the soul, and what it's learning through the process of your own learning. What you know you're connected with, what does it feel like? So if you're experiencing right out of the gate as a soul, you're experiencing what love is, but it's pure because you're feeling the energy, and you realize how powerful it is, what it feels like to be loved. So when you're being loved and you are experiencing being what love is, then you know you are one with what love is. That means you know that wherever love is, you are, because you're experiencing love. So when you are experiencing being loved and you are loved, you're with the one. You're with all the other love energy engines. Now you're in the light with all the other spirits that are in that light, which is all of creation that created it. So that means you've surrendered, okay, to the one. So I know just out of common sense that the male side, me, is consumed by the other, which would be the female. That's why Terence McKenna thought of her, I guess, metaphorically as the other. But when you're one, there isn't any separation between what I am and all of creation, because it's love that I'm giving it to. So wherever you find love and living spirit, you find my spirit with my soul, which is one with all creation. So therefore, everything is equal unto all that you give love to, because you surrender to that. And as a result of that, you now are the most powerful in energy because you've chose to serve forever with your energy. And there's no mistake in it that if you're not willing to surrender at the soul level, you're not going to fool Godspeed on whether your soul actually feels that and is willing to do that. So with me, I was willing to do that. And I'm not afraid to have fire put to me, and particularly by a girl. Okay. So now you get into fire breathing dragons, right? A male and a female breathing dragons. You could, like, if you want to use the imagery of a lot of those movies that they did with Lord of the Rings and all that, and dragons and dragon riders, you know, Huna Flash and all that. Yeah. You know, riding dragons, going through tunnels. Okay. Myself, the way I experience it visually is being like a boring tunnel. Like you see their NASA machines, you know, with the big tunnels that they run. It's like being a high-speed motor, like a buzz saw. It's just going to start burning everything out because you're running on the hottest engine and spirit with that light. So you're like one of God's messengers. Fire station number one. So that was true when Yellow Rose said the one put the call out. That's true. Absolutely. When the one puts the call out, that's all hands on deck. That means all living spirits are on board this engine. And when you're running Godspeed, you know that. That's right hand up. That's Godspeed. Okay? But I'm androgynous, so I'm one with all creation. So that means I'm just as much a girl as I am a boy because you know, there you go with the movie The Knowing with the boy and the girl holding hands. They're holding hands, which means they're energetically connected. Okay, in a physical way, in a matter way, but you see the tree of creation right in front of them. Wow. The tree. So the tree is a network. You're connected to all the networks. So when you have chosen to be one, then it means you have access to all the networks because you've chosen to serve forever. That allows the spirit, which is me, my spirit, can go anywhere. And that's the beauty of it, and that's the genius of it. That's automatic, which means it's built in because the physics doesn't lie in the law of least effort. Because energy consciousness does not want to be held captive by anything. That's why it's free will. So when you're holding another unit of consciousness, energy, it's because you're wanting to feed on it. You can't let it go. Okay? So that's really what it is. When I talk like this or share like this, I think in terms of energy mechanics. What you're feeling in energy is a result of the transaction of the energy field that you're in. What is it like to experience it? So if you're having to hold another energy unit in energetic terms captive, okay, that's the same thing as a leash, okay? And then that gets into the much larger discussion of hybridization, the environments that everything is operating in as environments, because I have places that I've been and I know that I can create where everything that is there in all its form and presentations is all having fun together, which means there isn't any one those forms that have been created. It would be much like the way that the cartoons work when I was growing up, where you had characters that were doing they were doing everything. You know, your imagination could go wild with cartoons because cartoons do things that you don't experience in real life. So somebody's got some imagination in these other worlds. So now your consciousness is running whatever that mind was that put that together, projected it to you, and now you're going to run it. What is it like to experience that? See, so this is why, from an artist, an original sound magician, that that you don't want to copy anybody else ever. That's you have an aversion to that, a complete aversion to that, because you have an artist within you that when it's much in the way that teachers would say, for example, being preoccupied, right? Not with the other group. This is an outlier on a scatter plot. Something's different about this being, boy, whether it's a boy or a girl. Why are they so different? See, that makes it an outlier. They're different. Okay, so that's why I love nature, because you see the diversity of everything in all its color, shape, and form, which is presenting itself. Try and put a number on all this, so I don't think about numbers. It's just being I realize my energy, the energy that flows through me, is the same energy that flows through it. So there isn't any separation of what keeps it growing and living. See, so you know you're among the living because your spirit is a living spirit that is in that light, that is the energy that all creation runs on, among the living. Okay, so it's all about living energies. You know, your spirit, it's really your spirit. And having a spirit of fire that burns hot is simply by accelerating your magnet and doing the things that you choose to do for yourself. I don't impose my will on nobody. Otherwise, I'm not what I say I am. Okay, that's not a free spirit. Free spirits are free spirits because free spirits are working with souls, because spirits are teachers. So you don't interfere. That's where the whole idea of non-interference comes in, is because if you want to watch a spiritual world that's going to grow and develop and how they all get along and communicate with each other, and then the result is going to be something that is experienced that we can observe at some point if we go there, right? Observe it as above, so below, or jump in there and be part of the, I call it a menagerie. Just a bigger zoo. But it's not perceived as in a negative way. I don't perceive things in a negative way. It's always in a positive way. Like going to San Diego Zoo was exciting for me to see all the diversity of everything that was on the planet. But on the other hand, it's inverted by my energy, which means I don't put anything in cages and leashes and all that. Put them on view like a circus and then charge people money. That's the Roman arena. That's what they do. Okay? All our stuff is free. Okay? They're salesmen. They need energy. We don't. That's a big difference, Charlie. Okay? And that's hard for people to expect. That's why they set it up. Now you're addicted to it because you realize now in your mind it's become inverted, that now you believe that without them you can't exist, and the reverse is actually true. They don't exist without us. So they invert the mind to believe a lie. And when all that's been programmed into your RAM, your unconscious, you're going to be running their programs. Okay? Which means they managed to be able to control your mind because you couldn't figure it out, how they do their math and how they do their programming. So when I came in as a child, bang, have this up and running quick. Now your antenna is reading the field and what's communicating. So when you're a source being, okay, when you're like Godspeed, that's, and it's not like there isn't other Godspeed beings here, because there are. Okay, so this is why I said one time about to Patty Broussard when she mentioned about the phantom timelines. I'm not a phantom timeline. I'm a monopole, which means I might lose everything else that you're aware of, but not me. Now, when you're a monopole, a purifier's got an eternal connection. Okay, because that soul chose to be an oversoul by virtue of having been tested in fire. Your absolute surrender to it, to be fire. The most powerful spirit of fire. Because that's what it is. That's why the water does what it does. Otherwise, we'd burn the house down. Because we love fire. Yep. Raging fires, but not raging fires that are destroying homes for little beings that I was out there playing with, right? What was that book, Tragedy and Hope? Yeah, I think it was Tragedy and Hope. I read that guy's book. I read a lot of their books, and because when you're already on fire, when you're a small child, and you realize, man, even everything that I went through and everything that I experienced, I realized that I can't live in fear of what I am to experience everything that is. That's how it works. If you know that you're God, if you believe that you are God itself, you know, in other words, the grand creator, even though God is just simply male, that's just the blade side, okay? Because I can tell you this being androgynous, okay? If I'm just the seed side, you better well know I'm going to need a badass grower that's going to spread this seed far and wide as fast as you can, get a universe going, set it on fire, right? Okay, so you want to be with the most powerful fire with a female to go do that with. So when you're on fire to do that, that means you've chosen to serve forever, where the male side acknowledges you got on my fire, put your fire to me. And it's like actually experiencing within your own mind's energy that you're burning. You want her eyes to know because she's feeling it. Are you burning? Are you actually burning?